My name is Celil Refik. I'm a classical guitarist, composer, and educator. It's a great honor to be part of Composers Now Impact, and today I'll be sharing some of my music and stories behind it. But before we start, I would like to talk about a little bit my background because it's very relative. I come from a family of musicians, and my father was a sculptor and painter as well, and he was a professional musician. He played a traditional Turkish instrument called rebab, and my grandfather was a violinist, oud player, and also a luthier. And my uncle was also he's a professional luthier and plays ney professionally. So growing up in a musical environment really shaped my musical identity, and we'll be talking about this in a second. But I started playing classical guitar when I was 6 years old, and my father was my first teacher. And the same year, I played my first concert, and I was really focused in guitar career. But later, not much later, but when I was around 8 or 9, I started composing specifically for guitar, and I discovered something much deeper, much more interesting, and I realized that I can express myself in a deeper level. And since then, I have been composing. So I studied composition in Turkey in Mimar Sinan Fine Arts University State Conservatory with Mehmet Nemutlu. Later, when I was doing my master's, I studied with Frederick Hand, and later during my doctorate, I studied with Donald Grantham while I was studying guitar, because guitar was my main degree. But I'm also a composer, so I continued composing. And meanwhile, published a lot of works, incorporated a lot of my pieces into my concerts, and I would like to talk about a little bit my um, musical character. I would say I'm more of a multicultural composer because I was exposed to many different type of genres. Growing up, my father used to collect a lot of CDs from different countries. Um, I listened to music from South America. I listened jazz. I listened opera. I listened to South American music. And while growing up in a traditional Turkish musical family, and I believe all these things helped me as a composer and as a performer. So I didn't incorporate traditional Turkish music until much later. During the pandemic, I started exploring more, incorporating um, Turkish makams, which are musical modes, rhythms, folk dances, folk songs, which was very interesting. And I wrote some pieces as part of a larger work called Sketches, and this is the volume 1, and they're based on my father's paintings, and they're more in a surreal and fantastic style. So next pieces you're going to hear are part of the sketches, and called the first piece is called Blind Fisherman, and the second piece is called Blind Fisherman's Wife. And both of these pieces have um, Black Sea folk music rhythms and makams, the musical modes that are very specific to Black Sea music. And let's hear it. like to talk about composing for guitar. Definitely, being a guitarist help composing because you have to know the instrument. Guitar is a really specific instrument that you have to know all aspects of it. Otherwise, a lot of the composer friends, they write pieces and they're fantastic pieces, but sometimes they have to be modified because um, it's really hard to know the instrument's capabilities if you don't play the instrument. So that's why I'm focusing on more guitar music naturally because I'm a guitarist. So, but the next piece is one of my chamber works. So it's originally written for guitar, cello, and flute in 2012, and the original title of it is Dicle ve Fırat, which means Tigris and Euphrates. As you know, these are two rivers in Mesopotamia, and we will hear the arrangement of it for clarinet, piano, and cello. This piece is very symbolic for me because I got a lot of the ideas from Sufism. Because I grew up not only hearing traditional Turkish music but also Turkish Sufi music, and there's a symbolic meaning behind this work. Um, these two rivers symbolizes two distinct forces merging together at the end and flowing together, and you can interpret this in a different way, like a masculine and feminine energy merging together, and it becomes part of the same soul. And there are different idiomatic things in the piece. For example, um, there's a part that I used a specific rhythm that's used in Mevlevi order called Devri Kebir with the cello, and this symbolizes the turning of the universe and the whirling dervishes, and more like a trance-like state. So there are a lot of symbolic language like that in it. And before that, we have an improvisation section that symbolizes the transition of the rivers flowing to each other. And at the end, it's more like a celebration. So, so there are a lot of like a spiritual metaphor in the piece, and I hope you enjoy it. The next piece I'll be talking about is From My Window. It's written for solo guitar, and it was a commission by Mario da Silva. He's a great friend of mine and a colleague, and he did a tremendous job performing it. And so this piece was about pandemic, and he commissioned to many other composers about this. But for me, it was more about isolation and personal reflection. So a lot of us had different experiences. Some people had horrible experiences during the pandemic, and some of us, like me, just isolated. So the window here is a threshold, a symbolic threshold between confinement and freedom. So through this frame, we witnessed the seasons change, uh, lives continue at a distance, and it affected many people's lives in a different way. So it's more of a meditative piece, symbolizes longing, gratitude, peace, and hope. So for a listener, it's more of a, it invites listener to look inward. And let's hear Mario's interpretation. Finally, I would like to talk about some of my colleagues and mentors who played my pieces. Um, so my guitar sonatina was premiered and played by Professor Adam Holzman, who was my former teacher, and he premiered this in Boston Guitar Festival, and he also played in New York, where I was, and he did an incredible job, of course. And some of my other pieces for Japanese koto and guitar were commissioned by my close friend Michael Gilsonen. He did an amazing job playing it. Bo Kyung Byeon, also a great friend. She's the winner of Guitar Foundation of America in 2021, and she recorded my Sonata Number One for guitar in her Naxos album. Um, and she's an incredible player. Played a lot of my other pieces. Kostler duo Adam and John uh, recorded my Prelude and Fugue, which was a commission. They also did an incredible job. So currently, I'm working on some other guitar pieces. One of them is a commission by Nicholas Hurt, who's a great friend also. I'm writing a sonata. So, and I also recorded my own compositions, Volume 1 for Naxos, which will be released next year. Um, so, I would like to thank everyone for watching, and I would like to thank Composers Now for this opportunity. I hope this music speaks to you, to your heart and imagination. So, thank you so much.